When most people go to work every day, they have the benefit of knowing that it doesn't matter if they're in New York City, Los Angeles, or Dallas Fort Worth. 2 plus 2 is always going to be 4. 4 plus 4 is always going to be 8. 8 minus 8 is always going to leave you with nothing. But in the roofing industry, well, where you are makes a difference because there's local codes, local customs, and the environment makes a difference on how things are done. Now, there's a great big debate in the roofing industry, especially in the residential world, about drip edge. When it's on the eave, does it go underneath our underlayments or does it go on top? Some places do it different. If you're out west or in the northwest, you better put it underneath the underlayment. Some parts of the northeast, they think it goes on top. And if you're in Florida, all you need is more tar. All kidding aside, let's talk about this. I'm going to show you the different ways that people do it. I'm going to show you the way that we typically do it in the area I'm at. I'm going to explain why these things are done differently in different places. And in the end, if the job is up to me and I'm the one buying materials, I'm going to show you the way that I think is the very best, most bulletproof way to put your ice and water shield and drip edge together on the eave. I currently live in the state of Utah, and out here in Utah, what suffices for drip edge, well, where I came from in Montana, no, it wouldn't fly. People would look at it funny, and the same way most of you are going to look at it. But I assure you, if you drive around the entire state of Utah, there are millions of homes that have this product right here with no Style D nose on it, and they're all still standing. And they're not having any problems. They use it at the eaves, and they use it on the rake edges. If I called my local supplier and I needed Style D, they're not going to have much more than enough to do maybe a shed in stock because nobody buys it. This is just the local custom. Just like wherever you are, there's something you use that is local to the area, and the suppliers carry what everybody just wants to buy. Now, I've had the benefit or the curse of roofing in numerous states. And I've seen things done different ways almost everywhere I go. Now, the basics are always the same, like I said. Water rolls downhill. You got to step the shingle over so many inches, space them so far apart, etc. But some of the finer points, local municipalities and local tradesmen disagree from one state to the next, and in some states from one town to the next. Let's get into drip edge and underlayment, though. Okay, what we've got here is the finest example of a home's eave that money should never be paid for. But I want to just really quick, before I get into the manufacturer's diagrams and videos of how they say that their material and product should be installed, I'm going to show you just a few different ways that things are done in different areas, and I'm going to explain why, and then why there's such a debate. Now, when you watch my videos, what you'll see is got a roof deck, subfascia. This is, if you're not in the trades, then this is where your gutter is. Okay, so your water's coming down here off of the roof, goes over the edge, down in the gutter, then makes a big puddle down in the downspout, makes a big puddle in your driveway for you to slip on the ice in the wintertime and get your shoulder thrown apart or something. Anyways, when you watch my videos, you watch me work, we put the drip edge on first. When I'm in Montana and Idaho, we use a Style D, but like I said, for whatever reason in Utah, they just use this, and it works just fine. There's no problems. We put that on first. I don't have any ice and water shield here at the house tonight, so I'm just going to use some synthetic paper, but pretend for the moment that this is ice and water shield. I put it on top. Now, the ice and water shield will actually, when it heats up, fully adhere to the roof deck and adhere to the drip edge, so you have a completely impermeable layer here with the only penetrations in it being from the nails going through the shingles and from the fasteners that hold it down until it seals. But it gets so hot, and it's like think of like bubble gum. It just sticks to the whole thing and seals right, and it adheres to those nails, it seals it up. And the reason we use that is for an effect called ice damming. On a side note, if you live in an area where you don't get snow, we might as well be arguing over, do you like Hufflepuff or Hogwarts better? Because it doesn't really matter for you unless you have a leak in your roof and water gets underneath the shingles and gets down to the eave. But in snow country, this matters. So what we're worried about is what's called an ice dam. An ice dam is simply this. Again, this is your eave, but back about, depending on your home, the average is anywhere from a foot to 2 feet back of overhang from the edge of your home, from the wall. And that wall is called the hot wall. That's the technical term for it. And what happens is the snow comes down, lands on your house. You have heat inside your home. The heat rises, gets in the attic, it creates a warmer environment, and that snow begins to melt and turn to water. And the water, because gravity still works even in the winter, starts rolling down the roof, coming down your shingles. But when it gets over to the eave here, there's no heat source under this. And so that water begins to freeze. And even if you have snow here, it'll freeze underneath the snow because the water's come down under the snowflakes, melted, turned into ice, and it becomes a dam. That wall of ice completely seals. This is what we call an ice dam. But that water's still coming down, and when it hits that ice, gravity still works. And the water is looking for the path of least resistance to go down. And in this case, what happens is it goes back up under the shingles. And back in the days when we just used tar paper, what would happen is the water would get under the shingles, and then when it got to the nail holes, it could actually run right through along the sides of where the nail and the tar paper were, and you would go tear this roof off down the road, and you would find, depending on where you were in the climate, we could find a foot, 8 inches, sometimes 2 feet of rotted out plywood at the bottom of a home. What Ice and Water Shield then did for us was that it fully adheres to this plywood, and then when it gets under there, it gets down here and hits that ice dam, it's not getting down to your wood, and we're trying to prevent it from rotting out your wood. So, when you watch my videos, what you'll see us do, we put our drip edge on first, we apply our Ice and Water Shield at the eave, the Ice and Water Shield fully adheres to the metal, and what happens then when water gets under here is just like this. You see it comes off, it would roll out from underneath the shingles, it would hit this. Now, if this were just regular paper like this is, see how some of it's wicked? You can't really see, but it's wicked back up under here. So that's why we want it to adhere to our drip edge. But as you can see, we don't get any water stains until down here after it comes off of the drip edge. Now that's why a lot of people are going to argue you should use a style D, you should have some overhang. And I agree with them, but if I did that around here, I would probably get fired because people think that it's crazy. At some point, you got to follow local customs. Now, back east, they insist that the Ice and Water Shield should go on first because they're running into occasions where when they pull this roof off, all this wood up under the Ice and Water Shield is good, except for the wood that's underneath the surface of the metal here. So right here, these couple inches at the bottom. And so they're trying to prevent that from getting rotted out. So they say if the Ice and Water Shield is sealed here, then all that wood's safe. But drip edge is on here. Let me scoop a little more water out of my wife's trusty dusty. Don't do that yet. When this water comes down and it's under here, what you can see is some of it gets on the metal. But oh, look at that. Some of it is still, it's gone underneath the metal. And then it rolls over, and this edge of the roof swells, and it gets all the subfascia wet. So we still have the same problem. Now, another gentleman in my comments had said that what they do is they go to the Ice and Water. Of course, wouldn't be nice about it. You're trying to say that's the only right way to do it. So, all right, I get it. Put the Ice and Water Shield on first, then their drip edge, then they put another layer of underlayment over it, which that would fix your problem. But you just saw a minute ago how the water can still wick up under the underlayment because it's not sealed to the drip edge. Now, years ago, I worked out in Cleveland, Ohio, and what they would have us do on new construction there, on new homes, was to bring the Ice and Water Shield, I don't remember what it was, it's 20 years ago, 3 or 4 inches past, fold it down over the fascia, the subfascia, but you still would have like 1.5 inches, 2 inches at the bottom of the subfascia that was not covered. And then we'd put our drip edge on, And then the water would run under here just like that. And of course, while this wouldn't rot out, it still got under here. And what would happen is the water would, when it started to melt, would get on the soffit panels, run back over to the wall, start running down the outside of the wall behind the siding, freeze, and then people would hear, there'd be all this ice on their walls. So all we did again was just move the problem over. Now, I told you I'd show you the way that when it's my decision and it's my job and I'm buying materials and I'm deciding how I'm going to do it, this is my preferred method for installing ice and water shield and drip edge. 2 years ago, I went up to Alaska. I was in Juneau, Alaska. I put a roof on my dad's home, and this is what we did. Now, he had cedar fascia, and it was going to stay bare wood. But I wanted to protect some of it, at least to where the gutter was going to hit it. So what we did was I cut 10-inch, I don't remember, maybe it's a foot, I don't know. Cut strips of ice and water shield that went on first. And it only went up the deck just a little ways, enough to get 4 or 5 inches up past the top edge of my drip edge. Folded it down, put my drip edge on. Then began putting full rolls of ice and water shield. So now your drip edge is completely sealed between layers of ice and water shield, negating all of those problems. We do this a lot in places like Big Sky, Park City, a lot of ski resort towns, West Yellowstone, etc. We'll do it like this when we have a say in it, and for good reason, and it works. And that system works every time. But regardless, if you're ever out in Montana, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, if you put your drip edge on top of your underlayment, you'll be looking for a new job because they will say you're being lazy. And I would agree with them. Let's get into, quick question. Answer in the comments, but I'll leave the answer at the end. We've been playing that this is ice and water shield. Now, if you are on, say, an outbuilding, something that's not heated, shed, external garage, carport, if there's no heat source in the house, do you need ice and water shield on the roof deck? Put your answer in the comments, and I'll give you the answer at the end of the video. All right, so now that we've gone around the dance floor a couple times and I've kind of showed you what the big debate in the argument is really all about and the reasons why each side has a legitimate point, I am not going to pretend to sit here and argue and say that the other sides do not have a legitimate point. But I'm telling you right now, if you go to Arizona, they roof one way, and it's very different. Other than the basic layout of the shingles, it's very different than the way they do it in Florida. And it's very different from what we do in Mississippi. And it's very different from what we do in Montana. And it's different from how things are done here in Utah. It all depends on your local climate. So at the end of the day, if you're a homeowner or, like I always say, whoever signs their name on the back of the check is not the one that's calling the shots. That being said, if you're a homeowner and you're looking at this video because you want to know how to put drip edge on your house the proper way, go and talk to your local building inspector. Find out what, not home inspector, don't leave them alone. The building inspector, ask him what the local codes and guidelines are. Because at the end of the day, all this stuff that I've shown you, if you're in an area where it's not code, it's not going to be good for you. They could make you redo it. Find out the local codes. All right, that being said, really quick, we're going to jump into how the manufacturers show us how to install this, and I'm going to comment on it, and we're just going to go down and see, at the end of the day, the big debate, what do the manufacturers say? And I've showed you why. And even though everyone's going to insist that I've done it wrong, I do it the way the manufacturer says. So let's go. Up first is certaintied. The eave edge of underlayment should go over the drip edge. Eaves flashing. So right there in our diagram, you saw that. That's certainty. All right, here's Owens Corning. Again, the diagram is showing the ice and water shield on top of the drip edge at the eave, and right there. There it is. There's a picture. Oh, it's so pretty. Okay, all joking aside, let's scroll down here. Application of underlayment metal, drip edge, and eave flashings. Apply one layer of underlayment over drip edge at eaves. And there's again another diagram. They're pretty clear. And here it's even more clear. Oops, a little funny on the zoom, but yep, very clear right here what they want. That's what they're expecting from us. Drip edge. All right, now here's Tamco. Now, Tamco actually, the diagrams are very clear. Drip edge is underneath the underlayment. They're very clear. But when you get into the finer of the text and I look around here, they don't say one way or another. But the diagrams, and here's another one, very clear, drip edge right underneath there. It is what it is. Okay, here we are at GAF. Let's see what they say. Let's scroll down their instructions. Here we go. Right. There we go. There's a diagram. Along eaves, put GAF leak barrier on top of non-corrosive metal drip edge. Pretty clear there. All right, on to everybody's favorite, IKO. What is IKO? IKO is going to be our one and only manufacturer that tells us, well, right there in their diagram, they show the drip edge on the deck, okay? Underlayment on top of it. However, right here, apply metal drip edge over underlayment or directly to the deck. So IKO gives you dealer's choice, whichever you'd like. And last but not least, Atlas shingles. What does Atlas say? Let's roll on down here. Right there. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Corrosion resistant drip edge should be placed over the underlayment at the rake. That's the edge on the side. And beneath the underlayment at the eaves. All right, let's check out Malarkey shingles. Rolling on down here, install drip edge first along the eaves and later on the rakes once the field underlayment has been applied. They're talking about the rake drip edge after the underlayment in the field. And right here again on the diagram, very clear, drip edge is underneath the underlayment. Really quick, let's jump over here. They're going to show you the alternative method like I talked about. Malarkey's only one always shows this where they use for extra protection at the eaves and prior to installation of drip edge, install a 6-inch wide stripping ply of ice and water shield. And right there in the diagram, I like to take it over the fascia, but there it is. In closing, to the homeowners that are thinking about roofing their house themselves, I urge you to follow your manufacturer's instructions and to go and talk to your local city building code inspector and see what they say the local codes are and take their advice. That being said, if you are a business owner or you are another installer, do it the way that you want to do it because you're the one that's on the hook if things go wrong. But again, I would advise you to follow local codes as well, just like with a homeowner. You know, I made this video in response to another video I made where I'm showing how I cut my drip edge a little bit differently to accommodate for gutter installation. And someone in the comments said, I'm doing it wrong. And well, 6 out of 7 of the world's manufacturers say otherwise. I will continue to install drip edge and ice and water shield the way I do. I have almost 29 years of experience and results to back up that I'm doing it right. And that's not to say that you're doing it wrong. I would continue doing what works for your local area because your climate is different than where I am, and there's good reason why you guys have the habits you do where you are. So this video is not to make you wrong, but it's just to show you that we can both be right. In the meantime, though, if you still don't think that I've done the job properly, I recommend you call the manufacturers and just let them know that they have been advising all of their customers to install their products incorrectly, and they should change that immediately. Other than that, all crap talking and goofing around aside, we all do things a little bit differently. And as long as it works, it works. I mean, some things are not a good idea to do, but if you have a question, you want my opinion about a roofing topic, shoot me a message. I'll be more than happy to try to make a video and answer it. And if you're still here watching, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. You have a good night.